You have big dreams of losing weight and creating a healthy, joyful life. But you find yourself craving sugar, caught up in what the scale says, and diet hopping. Dieting is the old way of losing weight. And the good news is I'm going to give you a new way of eating so you can ditch diets for good and build a healthy relationship with real food. My name is Megan Olson, certified nutrition practitioner, creator of Skinny Fitalicious, and your host of the Dish on Diets show. Hello, friends. Today we're talking about 7 signs you are on the wrong diet. I have a lot of conversations with lovely ladies, and every single time I talk to these lovely ladies, they are working so hard and they don't have the results to show for it. And they deserve the results they're looking for, and they're doing all the things that they know how to do. And it's not that they're lazy or that they're broken or that their metabolism isn't working or that it's menopause's fault. It's that they're not on the right plan. A lot of women are in the land of eat less and move more. And yes, that's like the surface level stuff that you have to focus on. But this stuff is more complicated than that. Anytime somebody says you just need a calorie deficit or you just need to eat less and move more, I'm like, well, there's a lot of layers and nuance to just doing that. A lot of these women that I talk to are trying to do some of these surface level things. They're in the land of eating less and moving more. They're in the land of trying to calorie deficit, and they are really frustrated. They are not where they want to be when all the pieces that make a plan doable, sustainable, and practical is actually not what they're following or doing in reality. The plan that they're on doesn't touch or focus on any of that. So I put together a list today of 7 signs that you're on the wrong plan. And this is either why your plan is not working, or maybe why you lose weight, but you gain the weight back, or maybe your plan works for a while, but then you fall off and it doesn't work and you don't know what's wrong with you and you're frustrated. So let's listen to these 7 things, because these are the nuances that go deeper than just eat less and be in a calorie deficit, because there's more nuance to losing weight than just that. Now, before we get into that, I want to remind you to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating and review. That really helps these platforms show my podcast to other women who need my help and need to hear this message. And it's an easy way that you can support me if you've been enjoying this podcast. So if you could take a minute to just help me out and leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to me on today, I would so greatly appreciate that. Okay, so let's dive in. Sign number 1 that you are on the wrong diet is your plan is not sustainable long term. It is mind-blowing to me how many midlife women are on plans that long term they know are not going to be sustainable. If you want results that last, you have to have a way of eating and habits you can do until you are 85 plus years old. You do not get forever results with temporary approaches. If you are trying to lose weight, cutting out all the foods you enjoy and never eating out, it will never be sustainable. So if you can't eat a certain way for the next 10 years, you shouldn't be doing it for the next 10 days. An example is I had a client a long time ago who was eating lunch meat for breakfast to hit her protein goal. And I said to her, can you do that forever? And she was like, no, I really hate this. And I said to her, then you shouldn't be doing that. We need to take the time up front to figure out meals that we actually like to eat, that include the protein our bodies need, that include the fiber our bodies need. A lot of women are missing this upfront work. They kind of approach the diet and they're like, well, I'm hitting my protein goal. You're kind of like checking the boxes is how I like to say it. And you're kind of checking the boxes, but it's not really something that's practical and doable for the long haul. And you're really anxious for results. You're just kind of going through the motions, but you're not actually building a good foundation that you can deal with and execute until you're 85 plus years old. You can't build a house without a foundation. You can't lose weight without a foundation. Many women that I have talked to and worked with over the last 11 years, they've always tried to lose weight without any solid foundation with their eating habits and routines. Believe me, I get it that when you feel uncomfortable and don't like your body, you're eager for results. And so a lot of women will say, they just want to jumpstart things, or they just, want to get some results so that they can feel motivated to keep going. They will say things like, I'm just the kind of person who, if I don't see the results right away, I'm not in this long term. I'll lose interest because nothing happens fast enough. This is a mindset issue because you're setting a limitation with an unrealistic expectation. So this is a good test for you that you can give yourself. How many times do you say, I am a blank, or I am this kind of person? Like, I am the kind of person who always gains weight back. I am somebody who needs to see the scale go down to keep going. That means your identity is based in limitations. And I want you to think about this. You are placing limitations on whether or not you will take care of your health. That's kind of wild. So you will only take care of your health if you get results. Is that how you treat your kids, grandkids, friends? You only take care of their health if you get fast results? Do you only service your car if it runs well? I mean, if you only take care of your health and do your healthy habits when the scale goes down, then you may not actually care about your health. And I'm saying this honestly, like, this is something for you to reflect on. A lot of women want to lose weight to get healthier, but that is actually backwards. You get healthier and you lose weight as a byproduct of you taking care of your health and getting healthier. This is why a lot of women on diets are a ticking time bomb waiting to go off, because they're not focusing on becoming a healthier version of themselves. They're only focused on weight loss and getting the scale number to go down. And then they're shocked when they couldn't stick with a diet that wasn't even realistic, or they're shocked they didn't maintain their results. And it's because the plan was not doable, practical, or sustainable, because they needed to see progress to take care of themselves. Whenever I hear women say, like, I went on the keto diet, I lost weight, but then I started eating carbs again and gained all my weight back. Or I was, eating 800 calories a day, but then as soon as I stopped, I lost all my results and gained my weight back. I did Noom, lost weight, and then a year later, I gained all my weight back. I mean, so if you stop going to work, would you be surprised that you quit getting paid? Would you be surprised if you quit cleaning your house that it would get dirty? Would you be surprised if you quit prioritizing your relationship, it would drift apart? Of course not. It's no different with your weight loss. If you want results that last, then you need to have a way of eating that is sustainable, and you need to have routines and processes in place around your health habits, like exercise and walking and getting your protein, to help you take care of yourself until you're 85 plus years old. And how you eat should be something you enjoy and you look forward to, that makes you feel good, not a way of eating you need to escape from. If you go on vacation and you can't wait to escape your diet, that is a red flag. You are on the wrong diet. If you can't wait to go back to your normal, quote unquote, you are not on the right plan. Your plan is not sustainable and your belief systems are a mess. And you likely have relationship with food issues if you look forward to going back to your normal, quote unquote, because your normal is the problem. Your normal is why you have a weight issue. Your diet food and regular food should not be different. They're the same. How you eat when you're dieting to lose weight in a calorie deficit is the same way that you are eating when you are at maintenance. It's just the portions that change, the calories that change. You can include donuts in your plan and lose weight. You can include cookies in your plan and lose weight. You can include chips in your plan and lose weight. You can include pizza and hamburgers in your plan and lose weight. You can even include ice cream and lose weight. What makes you think you can't eat those foods and lose weight? Now, should those foods be the majority of your diet? No. Most of your diet should be nutrient-dense foods, focusing on prioritizing protein, fiber, fruits, and vegetables. But these fun foods, they should be part of your plan too. If you're dieting and you're super rigid and extreme, and then you go back to your normal and you're eating like a jerk with no regard to health or nutrition, it's no surprise why you're struggling with weight your entire life. You should be prioritizing whole foods and hitting specific nutrients like protein and fiber, but also including foods that you enjoy, even the ones that have fewer nutrients, so you don't feel like you're missing out, so it doesn't feel like it's deprivation. Likewise, this means when you are not dieting or trying to lose body fat, you should still be eating mostly whole foods, hitting your nutrient goals with protein and fiber, and still including foods you enjoy. Your normal is the issue. The way you eat when you're dieting, the way you eat when you're at maintenance, it's the same dietary pattern. The only difference should be the amount of calories. I mean, this is like a student wanting to get their grades up, thinking they're only going to study until they pass this grade, and then they go back to normal of zero studying. Their normal is the problem. The all or nothing thinking is the problem. The lack of routine and processes and a good foundation for how you eat and hit some of your nutritional goals to keep your hunger in check and also keep you feeling good for feeding your body the nutrients it needs, that's the problem. It's the lack of foundation that is the problem. Okay? So if you can't do it until you're 85 plus years old, you shouldn't be doing it for the next 10 days. Okay? Sign number 2, you are on the wrong diet. You are only looking at the scale. Body composition is what matters, not the scale. Midlife women who are looking only at the scale are dieting wrong. You are doing it wrong. You need to look at your measurements and body fat percentage. Your goal is to reduce your body fat percentage to get leaner. The number on the scale really doesn't mean a whole lot in terms of your health. If you have a low scale number and a high body fat percentage, you are unhealthy. So just getting the scale down, you could still have a high body fat percentage and you could still be really unhealthy. So a lot of women really struggle with this. They are so tied to that dang scale number, and you really do have to break this mental cycle. And if you're on a diet that's really emphasizing the number on the scale and doing manipulative things with food to get the scale number to go down, you got to get off of it, because it's not what is important to your health, and it's actually not going to get you leaner and looking your best. I just had a client this week who's in midlife who went from a size 14 pant size to a size 10. She even told me she could probably fit into a size 8 at this point because her size 10s are pretty big. And she said, Megan, I can't believe my scale weight hasn't moved at all. She went from a 14 to a 10, possibly even an 8 at this point. Her scale weight has stayed exactly the same. Why? She didn't have very much muscle. The issue is so many midlife women are so under-muscled. When you begin walking and eating adequate protein, if you've been under-muscled, you are going to begin to put some muscle on just from doing those two things. And if you are putting muscle on while simultaneously losing fat in a caloric deficit, what you can see is you will gain fat and you will lose fat and gain muscle at the same time, basically just negating the scale. So the scale will just kind of stay the same for a while. So you can lose 10 pounds of fat and you can gain 10 pounds of muscle at the same time. Let's say you're at 180 pounds. 10 minus 180 equals 170. Now, if you gain 10 pounds of muscle, 170 plus 10 equals 180. The scale stays exactly the same at 180. This is normal. For a lot of midlife women who are under-muscled, this is very, very normal. Your scale's just going to stay exactly the same. And you got to get over this. You got to get over this. If you don't get over it, you're just going to be a mental case over this number for the rest of your life. That is much needed muscle that midlife women need as they age. And this is why the scale doesn't really mean a whole lot anymore. Eventually, your scale number, if you are really at a high body fat percentage and a high scale weight for your height, eventually your scale number will go down. But in the beginning of your journey, if the only thing you measure to see if your plan is working is the scale, you're not going to see that number go down. Most likely. If you are somebody who's under-muscled, dieted a lot, you're just not going to see it go down a whole lot. I mean, imagine if my client had only been going by the scale. She would have given up a long time ago. A long time before she got into this size 10 pant size. And she told me that too. She said, now I see a big part of the problem was I was letting the scale dictate if things were working. And then I just quit because I assumed it wasn't working because the only thing I looked at was the scale. Right. And this is where so many women are. And this is why I said, if you are only using the scale, you are actually doing this wrong. Wrong. And I hate telling people that, but really, you are doing this wrong. And you're doing a huge disservice to yourself. Huge. My client Carrie talked about this exact thing in episode 126. She went down in pant sizes and during her first deficit with me, and her scale weight did not change. And that's because she put on muscle. Much needed muscle. During her second deficit, the scale finally began to move for her. Her body fat percentage went down during her first deficit. So even though her scale did not move, we knew things were working. Her pant size is going down, her body fat percentage is going down, everything was working. And I hate to say this, but so many women are dieting wrong because they only look at this scale number and then they're spiraling mentally out of control over this number on the scale and putting way too much emphasis on this number. You will never, ever be able to control the scale number because a lot influences that number, not just body fat. And if you want to lose weight forever, you need to focus on losing body fat. You can lose weight on the scale and still look fat. That's what we call skinny fat. So if your diet is only emphasizing the scale number and it's not taking measurements and body fat percentage into consideration, you are on the wrong diet. Okay? Number 3 sign you are on the wrong diet. So most diets and coaches and programs and even some nutritionists tell you just don't eat this food or don't eat these things like sugar. Right? Never eat that. Let's see how good you can be. Just never eat that stuff. The problem with telling somebody not to eat something is really highly ineffective and will create more desire for somebody to want to eat a certain food. And they will be more likely to overeat as a result of that. It's incredible to me how many midlife women I have seen who have a pattern of overeating certain foods, typically less nutritious foods like ice cream, cookies, sugar, chocolate, etc., but they won't eat fruit or potatoes or oatmeal because they think they have too much sugar. That makes no sense at all. Remember what I said earlier? If you can't eat a certain way until you're 85 plus years old, then you shouldn't be eating that way to lose weight. The biggest problem most women have is they get caught up in this thinking that they have to restrict certain foods instead of just balancing them in their diet. They try to make their food as miserable as possible, and they keep trying to approach weight loss through restriction. Restriction breeds overeating all the time. And if you find yourself triggered around certain foods and you can't stop eating them once you start, or you have a food list that's off limits when you are dieting, then you're on the wrong diet. It is only a matter of time before you will no longer be able to adhere to that way of eating. The pattern of restricting needs to be addressed. Restricting certain foods harder doesn't fix this. And it can actually make your relationship with food psychologically worse and cause you to overeat even more. Okay? Number 4 sign you are on the wrong diet is that your plan doesn't address your relationship with food. Something I just said, right? It doesn't address your relationship with food. It doesn't address your self-judgment. It doesn't address your inner critic or your all or nothing mindset. I see these things quite frequently. A woman will talk to me and tell me, she worked with a nutritionist in the past, and that person just told them how many calories to eat and what foods not to eat. But they never worked with them on their relationship with food or their all or nothing mindset. The thing is that outer work without the inner work will never result in a sustainable, doable, and practical plan that you can do until you're 85 plus years old. You can have all the fat loss, nutrition, and exercise and recipes in the world, but until you do the deeper work to uncover the inner work, you will never have lasting success until you are 85 plus years old. The issue is many women follow influencers who really have never had deeper issues going on with food. Big booty Judy selling her workout guide, or healing hormone Helen who is selling you a bunch of supplements, or ripped ab Tony is selling a meal plan and telling you what foods to avoid. Yeah, those people can just eat less and move more because they haven't been dieting since they were 12. They didn't have a parent taking foods away from them and shaming them for being overweight. They didn't learn how to use food to cope with their emotions when they were younger. They didn't do Weight Watchers 20 times or have a parent that took them to Weight Watchers. They didn't get traumatized by the number on the scale. They didn't do 30 diets where they trash their metabolisms. They aren't scared of eating bananas, potatoes, and oatmeal because of the sugar. They don't feel triggered around sugar, chocolate, or cookies and overeat them when they get around them. These influencers don't have these deeper issues going on. And so, and this is the thing I find with a lot of other nutritionists too, they kind of focus so much on the tactical stuff, they don't realize the inner stuff has to go along with that tactical stuff of tracking your calories, as an example. If you live in the land of only tracking calories and exercising hard, and you give no regard to your mental or emotional side of you during this process of changing your habits and changing your behaviors and addressing maybe things that traumatize you in your childhood, your relationship with food, your relationship with your body, your thought processes, your belief systems, your inner critic, if you don't address those deeper parts of you, it's no wonder why they manifest with food every time you attempt to eat better and lose some weight. And I say this to many of my clients, it's not about the food. For those that have food relationship issues, food is just a symptom of all these deeper issues. Some women who have food relationship issues, what they do is they kind of jump around to all these different diets thinking the diet is going to fix them, or a different way of eating or manipulating food is going to fix these behavior patterns. And they, spend all kinds of money and time researching different diets and nutrition. And they think if they just knew this one nutrition or diet trick, that would finally be the answer or the fix, right? They think that they can just calorie count harder, when the answer is none of that. Food is merely a symptom of all those deeper things that you are avoiding, and it just manifests itself with your relationship with food. If you go on vacation and you feel guilty about what you eat when you get home, that's a relationship with food problem. If you eat something less nutritious and you feel like you cheated, that's a relationship with food problem. If you feel like you overindulged last night on ice cream with your family and you feel ashamed of doing that, that is a relationship with food problem. If you have these issues and your diet does not address your relationship with food, then dieting harder or calorie counting more, going back to Weight Watchers, is not going to fix this. In fact, it's going to actually make it more challenging. Weight loss becomes very, very difficult because you can't get the outside results without doing the inner work first. It is part of your foundation of your house. So if your diet is not addressing that and you have those kinds of issues, you're on the wrong diet. Okay? Because you can only focus on the tactical stuff so long until it gets you no results. Okay? Number 5 sign is your plan doesn't touch your emotional side. Most women think their results are just about food, exercise, and calories. Eat less, move more, which yes, can work temporarily. But is your goal temporary results or sustainable results? If you are looking for sustainable, practical, and doable so you can keep weight off and take care of your body until you're 85 plus years old, then your emotional side is an important part of this journey too. On the surface, yes, calorie deficit is how you lose body fat. Eat less, move more. But if you want to keep weight off forever, I see it as more complex than that. I see it more like a pie. One quarter is movement, one quarter is nutrition, one quarter is mental, and one quarter is emotional. Because if you are just working on, your exercise and eating, but the problem is, what controls you doing those things? What controls you actually doing the nutrition plan and doing the exercise and doing the walks? It's your thoughts and feelings, your mindset, your beliefs, and then the emotional part of you, which is how you feel. And, I can't tell you how many times I have seen clients sabotage because of their feelings. They feel something, usually something bad, something negative, right? And they don't like that yucky feeling. And so they stop taking care of themselves, right? They feel bad about something. They feel anxious about something. They feel stressed or angry about something. Something like, I've been on edge these last few weeks because I'm scared I might lose my job. Megan, I didn't go for any walks. I didn't eat any protein or fiber. Didn't follow my plan. Didn't even meal plan any of my meals or track my food. I ate donuts for breakfast the last 2 weeks because my kitchen flooded. These are the very typical things I see with clients. And that's not to shame anybody, right? These things happen in life. And these are just a few real life examples of many that I've heard throughout the years. And it is because women have not learned how to regulate their emotions. They have spent a lifetime suppressing how they feel and not learning to attend to their emotional well-being, which leads to sabotaging your physical well-being. That is not a meal plan problem. That is not a calorie problem. That is not a metabolism problem. Most diets or nutritionists don't touch this emotional side at all. And it really has to be addressed. Because if you know all the things and you always stop because of your emotions, it's going to be tough to keep weight off. You have to really pay attention and work through how you handle your emotions separately from food and not just distract yourself. Most women's plans are entirely based on distractions. If you emotionally eat, it's because you are distracting with food and you're using food to distract from how you're feeling. How often do you feel stress, anxiety, anger, boredom, frustration, pain, sickness, whatever you are feeling, and you go, nope, I don't want to feel this way, and you go hide it or distract with food or exercise? If you distract your emotions with food, you do end up overeating. So addressing this behavioral pattern needs to be part of an effective weight loss program because this is not a willpower issue, it's not a nutrition issue, and it is not a calorie issue. You can be in a calorie tracking app all you want, but ultimately this behavioral pattern will pop up and derail you from your goals. You need strategies for dealing with this and learning to process and regulate emotions, because just having someone say, be more mindful is not going to be really helpful. That's like telling somebody who's sad to just be happy. It doesn't work. You have to learn how to deal with your emotions, regulate your emotions versus hiding, distracting, and suppressing. And honestly, I see this pattern pretty frequently with the clients that I work with. Life is going to happen. It always does when I'm working with somebody. And, the funny thing is that people will stop taking care of themselves when life happens and they feel a negative emotion. Not because they didn't know what the plan was or that their plan wasn't doable. It's because their feelings got in the way of them executing their behaviors. And it's actually kind of odd to me because when you really step back and think about this behavior pattern, when you are feeling bad, why would you stop taking care of yourself? Wouldn't it make sense that taking care of yourself would be even more important when you're going through a tough time? That would be a way to support yourself. I really do need to take care of myself and I need to support myself. That's something you have to learn in this journey. Do you stop taking care of your kids when you're feeling bad? When you're feeling anxious? You just stop feeding them? Sorry, kids, no dinner tonight. Probably not, right? But the thing about our feelings is they're not logical, right? That's why we do illogical things and then we get frustrated with ourselves. So learning to regulate emotions is key in your weight loss journey, and learning how to support yourself is key, because it is a behavioral pattern that will sabotage you when it comes to food. You will stop taking care of your health and use food to distract and then say, see, here I go again. I don't know why I keep doing this. I don't know what's wrong with me. So it's very important that your diet addresses your emotions. Otherwise, that sabotaging behavior pattern will keep popping up. Okay? Number 6 sign you are on the wrong diet is that it doesn't address your mindset and how you treat yourself. The mental side is your belief systems and things that you think about that can be challenged, and your identity. Where some people go wrong is that they have an emotion come up and then they attach a belief to it and they establish a meaning around it. And then your mind goes to work to find evidence to support what you believe. For example, this is why somebody will eat a cookie and then they feel guilty for eating the cookie and they assign a belief to it like, I'm never going to be able to lose weight because I ate a cookie, so I might as well quit and go eat whatever I want because I am failing. Then that person will actually go out into the world and look for evidence of other things that they think they're doing wrong. I only walked 3 times last week. I didn't track my food yesterday. They begin to look for all the things they are not doing perfectly as evidence of them failing. They will convince themselves they're broken, or this just isn't in the cards for themselves. This is just who I am, and I can never lose weight. And they start to identify as somebody who can never lose weight. That is exactly the problem. You think this is just who you are. And too often we are trying to change our bodies without changing who we are. You have to become somebody who's healthier. Does somebody who's healthier freak out because they ate a cookie? That's like a kid who says, I'm a horrible student and just expects to get good grades. No, you have to become a good student in order to get good grades. You have to become what you want. You don't lose weight and become someone who's healthier. That's backwards. You get healthier and practice health habits, health mindsets, and routines and add them to your life, and then you lose weight and then you keep it off because you become the person who is healthier. You became what you wanted. If you struggle with overeating sugar, as an example, and you say, I'm a sugar addict and I always find myself going back to eating sugar, then it's no wonder that you go back to eating sugar. You are who you identify with. You are somebody who always overeats sugar. You identify with that. A diet is simply how you eat. It's a way of eating. A diet or how you eat does not address the fact that you go back to overeating sugar and you identify as a person who overeats sugar. That's why the emotional and mindset pieces are so crucial to you achieving lasting results. Your mindset is literally how your mind is set. Where is your mind currently set at? Is the narrative in your head that this is just who I am and I'm always going to gain the weight back? How many times have you fallen off plan and said to yourself, I knew that was going to happen? That's a mindset problem. It's a story and a narrative that you have crafted that you believe to your core, and now you have attached your identity to it. One of the first things I work on early on with my clients is to go over their belief systems, because I know this is a critical piece of this journey. But if your diet is not addressing the beliefs, the stories, the narratives that you have, then it's no wonder that your results are short-lived. You know, it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, if your brain is still operating on level 2 and I give you level 10 fat loss results, your brain is still going to sabotage you back to a level 2 because you identify as that person. Okay? So mindset is a critical piece of this journey, and if your diet is not addressing this, you're on the wrong diet. Number 7 sign, your plan isn't flexible for bad days. This one's so important because it goes back to having a plan that is sustainable, doable, practical, and that plan should be adaptable for when your life happens. This one is also kind of going back to belief systems and regulating emotions. You probably have an all or nothing pattern and belief system. If every time something happens in your life, like a car breaks down or work gets stressful or a kid gets sick, and you just kind of throw yourself off plan, then you are an all or nothing person, and that is an issue. Imagine if you treated your job this way and you were like, oh, it's the holidays, I'm stressed, and then you don't go into work for the entire month of December. Or you say, I can't take care of my kids because it's too busy at work right now. I can't prioritize feeding my kids, picking them up from school, and if I can't prioritize them some, I don't want to prioritize them at all. Or you're like, I'm having a rough time right now, so I'm not going to feed my dog. Like, seriously, nobody would ever do any of that stuff. That all sounds super ridiculous, right? Yeah, but that's what we do to ourselves. It's so weird. So the things that matter to you in your life, you will always find a way to work around it and do the best you can. We never treat nutrition that way, and it's because we have a broken relationship with ourselves. We do not value ourselves the way we value our pets, our kids, our jobs. The number one most important relationship is the one you have with you. So every time you don't take care of yourself when life happens, it represents that you don't really value yourself the way you would value your kids. And if you are always waiting for your life to calm down or life to stop happening for you to work on your health, then you will always be in a cycle of getting some results and then backtracking. Like, do you buy a carton of eggs and 2 eggs are broken, and when you get home, you're like, oh my gosh, these 2 eggs are broken, and you just throw all of them out? No one does that. That would be ridiculous. But that is what people do with their health and their nutrition. Why do we treat health and nutrition this way? Because we don't value ourselves. You have a broken relationship with yourself. Because logically, we all know some eggs are better than no eggs, right? Like some steps are better than no steps. Some tracking is better than no tracking. Some protein is better than no protein, right? So it's in parts that you don't place a lot of value on yourself. You think you're going to value yourself more when you see a lower number on the scale. That's a faulty mindset. But learning to live in the gray zone and learning to value yourself so you can do the bare minimum and do something instead of nothing is a skill that needs to be developed. Diets don't teach you that. And this is why most women are living in all or nothing land. So in your mind, you're like, well, if I can't give it 110%, why bother? I'm not going to do anything. This is just who I am. And again, we prioritize what we value. Most women don't value themselves. They're placing a limitation and saying, I'm only going to value myself when I lose weight, when that scale number goes down. You find ways to devalue yourself with, I'm an all or nothing person, so I might as well not even try. The thing is you got to eat to stay alive. So we have to work on the relationship with yourself, how you value yourself, and learn how to make subtle tweaks in your nutrition so you can still make progress even if you can't go to the gym right now because work is double stress. Like I was just working with a client recently who she has literally come to work with me to fix her all or nothing mentality. And she said as soon as things aren't perfect, she throws out her entire plan. So what happened when she hurt her back a few weeks ago and life got super busy? So she couldn't do her workouts. She wanted to throw her nutrition away. And I said, wait a second, of course that's a pattern because that's what you've always done. But how much sense does that make logically? Why don't we instead say, I'm not going to do my workouts because I have an injury, but I'm going to do the best I can with my nutrition to fuel my body. For her, that felt very uncomfortable because she has always been like this all or nothing person, and she hasn't had a lot of value on herself. And so when she starts, she's like all in. And if she can't follow every piece of a program perfectly to a T, she doesn't even want to try it at all. Again, because she has a value problem with herself. This is a pattern we have to rewrite. Part of the pattern is because of who you think you are and the undervaluing of yourself. This is why if your plan doesn't have adaptations or flexibility for when life gets crazy, busy, and unpredictable, you're on the wrong plan. And if your plan isn't addressing how you value and prioritize yourself like you would your kids and pet, your plan needs to include that. Just like with your kids, you need to learn how to take care of yourself even when life throws you curveballs. And truly, part of this process is learning to become somebody who can be flexible and pivot and accept that life is going to happen, accept it's okay, you can do your best, and something is better than nothing. You can't control everything in life. I've been doing this for 11 years, and women have a hard time with this. They have a hard time accepting lowering the bar and pivoting and not doing everything perfectly and not feeling like a total loser and not criticizing themselves for not doing everything perfectly unless they're doing everything perfectly to a T. Women have a really, really hard time, I've noticed, with that. That's a problem, right? And so then what women do, because they can't be perfect, they're like, well, I'm going to do nothing. Right? Just like your kids, you wouldn't stop feeding your kids just because life is happening. You would figure out, how do I do that and make it happen the best I can, even if it's kind of ugly and imperfect. Your plan must include that flexibility. Your plan must allow for flexibility. And your plan also must address how you're treating yourself and your relationship with yourself. Think about it this way. If you walk every day for 3 months and then stop for 3 months because something in your life happened, are you consistent? No. But what if you walked every day for 3 months and then when life happened, instead of just doing nothing, you walked for 10 minutes every day? You walked 10 minutes around your office, let's say. You didn't even go outside. You would be way more consistent because you maintained the habit of walking, even though it was only 10 minutes. You did something versus nothing. And a lot of women struggle with doing the something because they're like, it's not good enough. And again, they're not valuing themselves enough to say, hey, I still need to take care of myself. And taking myself for a 10-minute walk is still giving my body something that it needs. It's still taking care of my health. We don't look at it that way. And we also kind of look at it like, well, it's not going to give me any results because I'm so obsessed with the scale. So why should I bother doing it? Right? And so that's got to change as well, that obsession with the scale. But again, this is something you have to learn. You have to learn how to pivot, be flexible, and also to value yourself. And this is part of the mindset shift you need to make. And if your diet is not addressing those things, again, you're on the wrong diet, okay? So always said with love, okay? And these are the things that nobody else is going to tell you that are the deeper issues that make the tactical things, the surface level things like the calorie deficit and moving more, harder. So if you don't address these like foundational things, the rest of it is very hard. Ladies, again, those were the 7 signs you are on the wrong diet. I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you need help, click the link in the show notes, set up a consultation with me. That's free to you. And I will talk to you soon. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my free weight loss class. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss, how hormones impact weight loss, and the truth about lasting weight loss without relying on willpower, workouts, or deprivation. Click the link in the show notes to watch that free class today. And if you are a woman over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, schedule a free weight loss breakthrough session with me after you watch that class. And let's talk about your 20 to 50 or more pound weight loss plan.